بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف وجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of outlines of transcendent philosophy. Today we start lesson 3 of the book. The first two lessons were introductory. They gave us very important information about Mulla Sadra's life, especially his scientific life, his works, people who were important for him, somehow influenced him, or at least he was seriously studying their ideas and maybe he disagreed with them. We gave a chronological list of his books, etc., his methodology. Now, in this lesson, we want to start with one of the important topics in transcendent philosophy, and that is about اصالة الوجود واعتبارية الماهية, primordiality of existence. Alhamdulillah, you have already studied this topic in different places, such as Bidayatul Hikmah, or with brothers and sisters here in the UK. We studied in Falsafi Muqaddamati, then in Bidayatul Hikmah, and also in Sharh Manzumah Mukhtasar. So you are familiar with this. But now we want to look at it with more depth. Sheikh Ubudiyat says that as much as his survey shows, the first person who addressed this issue as a kind of independent issue is Mir Damad. Of course, Ayatollah Mutahari says, Mulla Sadra in some of his works was the first person, but maybe Mulla Sadra was the first person who really dealt with this in kind of details, but traces of this could be found in also philosophers before Mulla Sadra, and in particular in Musannafat of Mir Damad, volume 1, page 504 to 507. You can find that Mir Damad also has mentioned this. Since before Mulla Sadra, as a key figure, there was no such topic as a philosophical topic, you find that, for example, maybe a person in some places argues as if he believes in Asalat al-Wujud. Now that we look back, in some places he argues as if he believes in Asalatul Mahiyya. If there is no consistency, it's because this was not an independent issue for them. But Sheikh Ishraq was certainly Asalatul Mahuwi. Maybe there was no such a topic as, should we go by Asalatul Wujud or by Asalatul Mahiyya, and then he says, I go by Asalatul Mahiyya. but his ideas are very much based on asalatul mahiyya, and actually Mulla Sadra refutes the ideas of Sheikh Ishraq in this case, in this regard, and therefore he comes up with asalatul wujud. Mashain, we can classify them as asalatul wujudi, although, as I said, maybe they didn't deal with this, directly and independently. But Sheikh Ishraq is asalatul mahuvi. He says, شکی نیست که نگرش شیخ اشراق درباره وجود و ماهیت در مبحث اعتبارات عقلی از کتاب‌های او آگاهانه یا ناآگاهانه کاملا اصالت ماهوی است. There is no doubt, although it was before this he says, it was not addressed as an independent topic. People may have different opinions in different places, but he says there is no doubt that the view of Sheikh Ishraq about existence and mahiyya in his works, whether consciously or unconsciously, was asalatul mahuvi. We say whether conscious or unconscious, because as we said, maybe this was not what he wanted to discuss, was a topic for him. به بیان روشن‌تر, more clearly we can put it in this way, آنچه صدر المتعلهین اصالت ماهیت و اعتباریت وجود یا به اختصار اصالت ماهیت مینامد و بر بطلان آن تأکید می‌ورزد، به گفته خود او، یعنی خود ملا صدرا، دقیقاً همان مدعای شیخ اشراق در باب وجود و ماهیت در مبحث یاته. So to say it more clearly, what Mulla Sadra tries to refute in this discussion, and that is asalatul mahiyya wa tibariyatul wujud, he himself says that this is the idea of Sheikh Ishraq. So this much is clear. So from historical perspective, بنابراین از جنبه تاریخی سرآغاز این بحث را در فلسفه میتوان همان مبحث اعتبارات عقلی در آثار شیخ اشراق دانست. We can historically say that the beginning of this discussion in philosophy is the discussion of Sheikh Ishraq about intellectual considerations. خب, now let us see what Sheikh Ishraq believed, and then see how Mulla Sadra dealt with it. Sheikh Ishraq, in the discussion about اعتبارات عقلی or intellectual considerations, he says that we cannot have two different things as wujud and mahiyya. For the things which have mahiyya, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is obvious. Al-haqqu mahiyyatuhu an-niyyatuhu. Over there is no separation between wujud and mahiyyat, even in our mind. We cannot distinguish. But when it comes to mumkinat, Sheikh Ishraq says that we cannot have two realities, two identities, one mahiyya for something and one wujud of something. And then after long discussion he says مفهوم وجود مفهومی بی مصداق است و در خارج مطابقی ندارد. So there can be only one. Which one now it's the real one? He says ماهیه. He says وجود has no مصداق, is a concept without مصداق, without instance. Nothing is outside that concept of wujud refers to. Sheikh Ubudiyat explains this based on Sheikh Ishraq's work with reference to what we learned in logic. You remember in logic we said haml can be who or zuhu. If we say Zaydun adlun, this is zuhu, means Zaydun zu adlan. But if we say Zaydun adil, this is huhu. Okay? Now, if we want to put what Sheikh Ishraq says in technical explanation, we say wujud, mafhum wujud, the concept of wujud, cannot be predicate for any reality as who. For example, Sheikh Ubudiyat says Ali. We have someone called Ali. We cannot say wujud is applicable to Ali. We can say Ali mawjudun, who, mawjud. We can say Ali wujudun, zuhu, means zul wujud. But we cannot say Ali wujudun. Not only Ali, any person, anything. We cannot say wujud can be predicate or can be applied to anything in who way. Therefore, there is no mistaq. The book, the desk, the computer, we cannot say they are wujud unless we do zuhu. But we can say the kitab this is kitab. So kitab has mistaq. We can say this is a human being. A human being has mistaq. So mahiyat, mafahim mahuvi, they have mistaq. Real things are their mistaq, their instances, but wujud has no mistaq. You cannot also say that there is one common mistaq for them, one common instance. We said there are no two realities. There is no also one. If someone says, okay, I can say Ali is a human being and Ali is wujud, what is wrong? He says no. Wujud is not a concept which has Ali as instance. Wujud has nothing to do with outside world. This person is insan, but this person is not wujud. And Sheikh Ubudiyat says that he has not himself explained why there is no common mistaq, but we can, draw out of his discussions and comment on his discussions this kind of argument, why there is no mistaq mushtarak, common instance for both wujud and mahiyya. The first thing is this. Sheikh Ishraq, these two things are very important because these are the same two things that Mulla Sadra refutes. Sheikh Ishraq implicitly به طور ارتکازی و ناخودآگاه, he has not elaborately elaborated this and deliberately said this, but he has this idea in his deep in his mind. There is such an idea that واقعیت خارجی که مصداق مفهومی ماهوی است خود امری ماهوی و از سنخ ماهیت است. So implicitly he has this idea that what we have outside, the person who is outside, the flower which is outside, is instance for mahiyya of themselves. For example, mahiyya of insan, mahiyya of flower, etc. یعنی واقعیات اصیلی که جهان خارج از آنها تشکیل یافته است، مانند شخص شما و من و این انگشتر و این درخت و این اسب، همان ماهیاتند. He didn't discuss this because this was clear and implicit. It was something established in his mind that these are mahiyat. These are instances of mahiyat jawhariyya or araziyya. Number 2, and this one is not very difficult, is that no mahiyya is a real contradiction for Adam. Tanaquz, one kind of contrast or taqabul is tanaquz, contradiction. Adam means non-existence. Opposite to Adam has to be something that can never be non-existent. Yeah, because naqizan la yajtama'an wa la yartafa'an, but now we are talking about Adamul ijtima. So naqizul Adam should be something that can never be non-existent. Mahiyya is something that can exist and also can sometimes not exist. Therefore, he wanted to put, in my words, Sheikh Ubudiyya doesn't say like, he wanted to put this concept of wujud and adam out of equation. So he says mahiyya, not wujud, because if he wants to focus on wujud and adam, then something which can be sometimes existing and sometimes not existing is not suitable for this purpose. As you know, mahiyya, we said many times, mahiyya is mutasaw nisba بالنسبة إلى الوجود والعدم. Or if you go further, they say mahiyya in itself is lays. Mahiyya in itself doesn't exist, and it is through illatihi that it becomes ice, it becomes existence. So has equal relation with existence and non-existence, and this means that it lacks existence. So it cannot be naqiz to Adam. So آشکار است که هیچ ماهیتی نقیض حقیقی عدم نیست. It's obvious that no quiddity is a real contradiction for Adam, for non-existence. زیرا هر ماهیتی ممکنه به ذات است. Every mahiyya is contingent by itself. It has equal relation with existence and non-existence. Therefore, it is ja'izul adam. Essentially, it's ja'izul adam, means adam is possible. in philosophy, jawaz means imkan. Jawaz doesn't mean ibaha as we have in fiqh. Jaiz al-adam means it's possible to be ma'doom. But if something is naqiz haqiqi, is truly contradictory to adam, then cannot be mutasawi nisba or jaiz al-adam. What is naqiz haqiqi for adam? Wujud. خب, you may say it's now good time to understand asalatul wujud, but don't forget the first one. We said irtikazan, he had the idea that what exists outside is mahiyya. Okay, so from this point that mahiyya is not naqiz haqiqi for adam and wujud is naqiz haqiqi for adam, plus the first point, he came to the conclusion that what exists outside is not wujud, because we have already said it is mahiyya. And there cannot be misdaq mushtarak. How can we have a common instance for two concepts that one of them is naqiz adam and the other one is not naqiz adam? So the conclusion of these, the first one and the second, which is divided into two parts, is that هیچ ماهیتی مصداق حقیقی مفهوم وجود نیست. No, ماهیه is a real instance of concept of existence, and therefore هر واقعیتی که مصداق مفهومی ماهوی است مصداق حقیقی مفهوم وجود نیست. So the instances cannot be the same basically. So this is why they cannot have common instance. Now Mulla Sadra, indeed what he means by asalatul wujud is totally opposite of these ideas that we attributed to Shaykh Ishraq. So number one, against what was implicit idea of Shaykh Ishraq, number one, Mulla Sadra says واقعیات اصیلی که جهان خارج از آنها تشکیل شده است اموری غیر ماهوی اند و از سنخ ماهیات نیستند. This person, that flower, that desk, that book, they are not mahiyya, they are wujud. So first he says they are غیر ماهوی. Then he says number two, مفهوم وجود مصداق دارد. Shaykh Ishraq was saying that mafhum wujud doesn't have mistaq and therefore only zuhu, hamle zuhu is possible. But Mulla Sadr says wujud has mistaq and these things that are outside, they are masadiq, instances of wujud. یعنی هر واقعیتی به حمل هوهو، وجود بر هر واقعیتی به حمل هوهو قابل حمل است. یعنی هر واقعیتی مصداق آن است. در نتیجه مصداق و حقیقت وجود اعتباری عقلی نیست. It's not just an intellectual consideration. بلکه واقعیتی خارجی است. Just opposite to what Shaykh Ishraq used to say. Shaykh Ubudiyat said all the arguments for asalatul wujud go back to these 2 points that we mentioned. Then he says maybe the easiest and most certain argument for asalatul wujud is what follows. And then you will see how this argument as a sample goes back to these points that we mentioned that Shaykh Ishraq believed and Mulla Sadra disagreed. So now we want to mention an argument for اصالة الوجود, which Sheikh Ubudiyat says maybe this is the easiest and the most certain one. Number one, ماهیت مانند انسان و درخت و طلا، human being, tree, gold، خود به خود و ذاتاً لا به شرط است. As you know, we discussed about اعتبارات ماهیت. We said we have لا به شرط, we have به شرط شی، به شرط لا, and then we applied it to ماهیه. We said ماهیه in itself with respect to existence and non-existence is لا به شرط. انسان can be موجود, can be معدوم. Neither وجود is a condition nor عدم is a condition. So, number one, ماهیت مانند انسان و درخت و طلا خود به خود و ذاتاً لا به شرط است. فی نفسه, essentially, in itself, primarily, whatever you say, is لا به شرط. What does it mean? Means that there is nothing in its essence that says it has to be existing or not existing. There is no requirement for being متشخص. Remember the discussion about تشخص. تشخص comes with existence. Individuation comes with existence. To be one individual, جزئی حقیقی, comes with existence. Before Farabi, they had, عوارض مشخصه, but Farabi said it's existence. خب, ماهیه doesn't have such a thing. ماهیه is general. So, in ماهیه, there is no تشخص. In ماهیه, there is ابهام, there is کلیات. ماهیه is not a specific, ماهیه is universal. And therefore, so three concepts which are very important: وجود، خارجیت و تشخص. Existence, being external, and individuation. These three don't apply to Mahiyya. Mahiyya lacks these things. This is point one. Two, we know that external realities, they have existence, they have kharijiyat, they are external, and they have tashakhus, they are individual. So three important characteristics of things which are real are lacking in Mahiyya. So Mahiyya cannot represent them. Mahiyya is in mind. Mahiyya is mafhum, and is kulli, and is mubham, and is la bishart with respect to existence. So Mahiyya is not representing things which are outside. So if there is any waqi'iyat, any reality, necessarily it is mawjood, khariji, wa mutashakhis. But Mahiyyat lacks these things. به بیان فلسفی, if you want to explain this philosophically, حیثیت واقعیت، حیثیت موجودیت و خارجیت و تشخص است. So when you consider, when you want to approach واقعیت, reality, it's not separable from considering three things. And they all are lacking in Mahiyya. موجودیت، خارجیت and تشخص. So هیچ واقعیت، در نتیجه هیچ واقعیتی ماهیت نیست. No reality is ماهیه. و هیچ ماهیتی همان واقعیت خارجی نیست. From the other side you can also say no ماهیه is external reality. He says, in order to understand this second claim better, so we can pay attention to the fact that anything that has موجودیت ذاتی, not like ماهیه, which لا به شرط ذاتن is لا به شرط for وجود, but anything which has موجودیت ذاتی is نقیض حقیقی عدم. So Adam, no reality. If we want to have reality, it must be naqiz to Adam. What can be naqiz to Adam, contradictory to Adam? Something which has reality in its essence, something that necessarily exists, and that is wujud, not mahiyya. حاصل این که, then he goes further and then he says conclusion. بنابر اصالت ماهیت, ماهیت هم, please listen very carefully, this is the part that I have highlighted to explain for you. بنابر اصالت ماهیت, ماهیت هم در خارج هست و هم در ذهن. Okay? ماهیت is outside and in mind. But when we say it's خارج, به این معنا که ماهیت خود واقعیت خارجی است. So according to اصالت الماهیه, ماهیه is outside as a reality, like Sheikh Ishraq, we are talking about Sheikh Ishraq, اصالت الماهوی. ماهیه is بنابراین اصالت الماهیه, according to اصالت الماهیه, like Sheikh Ishraq, ماهیه is outside and in mind. Outside is these realities outside their mahiyya. Mulla Sadra says this is not possible. How can the same thing be both in mind and outside? How can the same thing in his mind is neutral about existence, when it is outside then wants to be naqiz for Adam? اما بنابر اصالت وجود ممکن نیست ماهیت در خارج یافت شود. ماهیت is impossible to be found outside. واقعیت خارجی امری است غیر ماهوی. External reality is not related to ماهی. It's not ماهوی. پس جایگاه ماهیت فقط ذهن است. ماهیت only exists in mind. و ماهیت ضرورتاً از سنخ مفهوم است. ماهیت is necessarily a kind of concept. همانطور که جایگاه واقعیت فقط خارج است. Similarly, واقعیت is only outside. So ماهیت is only inside mind. واقعیت, reality is only outside. ممکن نیست هیچ واقعیتی خود به ذهن آید. No reality can come to our mind. از وجود ذهنی. Of course, there are realities inside mind. For them, their خارج is mind. That's different. If you think about your mental images themselves, their خارج is your mind. That's different thing. We are talking about something which is representing a reality, not something which is itself a reality. So, ممکن نیست هیچ واقعیتی خود به ذهن آید ولی تصویر آن در ذهن موجود می شود. We have an image of that flower. It is so nicely happening that you think you understand the flower directly. But as philosophers say, the flower is معلوم بالعرض. It's not معلوم بالذات. What is first known to us is the image of the flower. But this image is so nicely corresponding to that we think the flower is in our mind. And then we think that the concept that we have in mind exists also outside. But this concept doesn't exist outside. تصویر آن در ذهن موجود می شود و این تصویر چیزی نیست جز همان مفهوم ماهوی که از واقعیتی در ذهن حاصل می شود. So this image comes to the mind, and this image is nothing other than مفهوم ماهوی, is the concept which is related to the quiddities, which are taken by our mind through the process of tajrid, as you know. It's not انتزاع. انتزاع is for معقولات ثانیه. معقولات اولا are مفاهیم ماهوی. Through tajrid we take these concepts. Then he says, according to اصالة الماهیه, the relation between ماهیه and واقعیت خارجی, external reality, is in this way, that something has two places, two moten. Sometimes it is in mind, sometimes it is outside. یک حقیقت است که در دو موتن موجود می شود، در ذهن و در خارج. In mind is مفهوم, it is کلی. In خارج, in external world, is حقیقت, it is جزئی. اما از دیدگاه اصالت وجود، رابطه آنها صرفاً رابطه تصویر و صاحب تصویر است. According to اصالت الوجود, it's not that the same thing exists in two places with different characteristics. No. Everything has one watan, one place, one motive. What is outside is the reality. What is inside is not that reality, is surah of that reality. And this is why, you know, in the discussion about wujud zihni, remember the main thing that was able to solve the problem and was the solution by Mulla Sadra was to say that there is ittihad, but it's bilhaml al-awwali. If you say there is no unity between wujud zihni and wujud khariji, then it leads to safsata. If we say it's the same reality, it leads to problems like endiraj al-shay tahta maqulatain, or shay being jawhar and araz. The solution was to say that there is ittihad, but bilhaml al-awwali, not bilhaml al-shay. So the concept which is in our mind is the same as flower, but not falling under the category of flower. It's a concept. Just is an image, is a mirror. از دیدگاه اصالت وجود، رابطه آنها صرفاً رابطه تصویر و صاحب تصویر است. Not that there is one thing which has two moten. No. One is image, one is the one that this is his image or its image. ماهیت تصویر ماهیت تصویر، ماهیت is the image، و حکایت واقعیت است. It's portraying reality. Then Sheikh Ubudiyat tries to explain this by using a philosophical term. How much time we have till Salat, Maghrib?
About 20 minutes.
20 minutes?
Just a moment, I'll check it. Yes.
Okay.
20
Okay.
minutes. Yes.
How many?
20 minutes.
20 minutes. Okay. So let us at least finish this part. You are familiar with this terminology in ilm al-balagha and also in philosophy, in usul al-fiqh, we use this terminology which is very beneficial. واسطه در عروض or واسطه در اسناد. You know, sometimes something really gives a quality, a condition to another thing. For example, imagine I learn from my teacher, so knowledge is coming to me through him. Of course, he is illat i'dadi, and even if he's not there, knowledge may remain here, but he is part of the illat tamme, complete cause. So I can say I have my knowledge بواسطه my teacher, by the means of my teacher, because teacher is part of the cause. Here it is واسطه در ثبوت. واسطه در ثبوت means there is something that has occurred between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Through him I have really got a quality, I have learned something. This is واسطه در ثبوت. واسطه در اثبات, which is not mentioned, these two are not mentioned in the book, but I mention it so that you have the whole picture. واسطه در اثبات means something by which you prove something. واسطه در ثبوت is something by which something can exist for me. But واسطه در اثبات is how my knowledge can be proved. Okay? But then we have another thing. واسطه در اسناد, in attribution. Sometimes, imagine for example, your father is alim, and people may think you are also alim, because for example, you are always with him, or you also have maybe imam, etc. People think you are also an alim, or because of things that maybe you have learned a little from him, but you are not really an alim. Because of your father, they may think you are alim. This is not wasitah dar subut, because you have not learned from him so much that you become alim. This is not wasitah dar isbat. This is wasitah dar isnad. Means your father is such a great alim that because of him, you are also considered as alim. Or like, famous example, jar al-mizab. When there is very heavy rain, so the drainage, the pipe for drainage of water, sometimes is full of rain, and rain is coming with pressure out of it, and Arabs sometimes say jar al-mizab, even this pipe is flowing. They say the pipe is flowing. So water is flowing, but it's attributed to pipe. This is called jar al-mizab. This is wasitah dar isnad. So Shaykh Ubudiyat puts it in this way. He says sometimes two things are somehow related to each other, A and B. C is a quality for A, but because A and B are very much connected, we think it's a quality for B as well. C was for A, but we think it's for A as well. The example that he mentions is when the relation is relation of kullu juz. For example, we say Nadir Shah conquered India. نادرشاه هندوستان را فتح کرد. خب did Nader conquer India by himself? No. There was an army, huge army. But Nader Shah is part of that army. So what was true for the whole group, we attributed to Nader Shah because the relation between Nader Shah and those group, because he's part of them and he was head of them. So we said A and B have some relation, and then C is for A, we attribute it to B as well. This becomes واسطه در اسناد. So there is something that has enabled us to attribute quality of something else to this thing. But this is majaz, this is not reality, this is metaphor. This is not reality. Sometimes they say بالعرض والمجاز. So now let us go back to the issue of wujud and mahiyat. So Sheikh Ubudiyat says we can say mahiyat موجود است بالعرض والمجاز. Mahiyya can be موجود but not by itself, because of wujud mahiyya can exist, like Jaral Mizab. You can say we have now insan outside. Insan is mahiyya, but you shouldn't think mahiyatul insan, which is a mafhum kulli, has come outside. It's like waladul alim, who is considered as alim, or Jaral Mizab. But unlike mahiyya, which is mawjud bil araz wal majaz, then we have wujud, which is mawjud bil zat wa bil haqiqa. Wujud is a reality, not bil araz wal majaz. Wujud is the one that is really there, by its own essence is real, primarily is real. Mahiyya becomes real because of association with wujud. So something which is surah for wujud, we are attributing quality of wujud to that surah, to that image. This is واسطه در اسناد or بالعرض والمجاز. You can also say this is حیثیت تقییدیه, means if mahiyya is mawjud, if mahiyya is with wujud, is real, but mahiyya in itself was not. Mahiyya with the help of wujud, if it is muqayyad with wujud, then it has this quality. So it's now clear that in our discussion, when we say asil, we say wujud is asil or mahiyya is asil, what we mean? We mean which one is mawjud bizat. Mulla Sadra says wujud is asil, means wujud is mawjudun bizat, by itself, primarily. We can still say mahiyya mawjud, al-insanu mawjud, but this is not the main reality. This is not the best way of showing reality. After we have said this in Bidayah and other places many times, that after proving asalatul wujud, still we can use arguments which are more suitable for asalatul mahiyya. But we say it's okay. It's not that they become lies. But it's better to use zod taswir, not taswir. The one who has this image, not the image. So, اصیل به معنای موجود به ذات و اعتباری به معنای موجود بالعرض است. What exists or to what موجود can be attributed, predicated by itself, which becomes asil, or not by itself because of something else, which becomes اعتباری. Okay, then he continues with a discussion about wujud and kulliye tabi'i. This discussion of kulliye tabi'i is something that we discussed in usulul fiqh many times, in philosophy, the example of the man from Hamadan and his understanding of, which is referred to in discussions. Inshallah, we will leave this for next week. So this week we will not have a class after Salat, and inshallah we continue this discussion bi'Iznillah next week. If you have any question, any comments, we have still some time before Azan Maghrib in Qom, I think. We can address your questions or comments. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Do you have any questions, any comments?
No, thank you.
No, okay. Please make sure that you do mubahasa. It's very important. Although some of things might be reminders, but it's very important to do mubahasa, inshallah. التماس دعا في أمان الله. May Allah bless you. Thank you. خدا حافظ. في أمان الله.